can call me D as well. D Meredith.
Hello, everyone. This is Jackie Wright with the San Francisco Black Film Festival. It is time for live talk at SFBFF. And we're celebrating our 25th anniversary of this organization that was started in 1998 by Ave Montague, the late great arts impresario. And one of the things she wanted to do was provide platforms for the African diaspora, and especially an affinity for the women in the African diaspora, to be able to voice those themes that you don't see in regular, usual media narratives. And so today we have with us, having a conversation during this 25th anniversary, Diedra Meredith. And Diedra, if I mispronounced your name, go ahead and correct it for me right now.
You can call me D. You can call me D Meredith, but it's Diedra Meredith.
Okay.
Call me.
All right, Dee, it is so good for you to be with us. And I see you got your NOLA hat on. So
nature,
she is coming to us from New Orleans, Louisiana. And so we're just so very blessed and pleased to have her with live talk on SFBFF, where we get an opportunity to find out about some of the projects of filmmakers. And what's so beautiful about a film festival is you don't only have to have the finished products, but you can hear what's coming down the pike. And Dee has a great project that she's working on. But before she gets into that project, let's hear a little bit about her. Diedra, tell us about you.
Well, I'll just say this much. I have a whole lot of hats, and I've mastered quite a few, because they say, master of some. Whenever I touch something, I'm going to master what it is, because I always commit to excellence, whatever it is that I do. And I was born into the whole movement in 1967. My mom winded up marrying my stepfather, Mr. Meredith. And of course, he comes from a long line of the Meredith, civil rights pioneers. And so I was raised in it, and just always all around it. And my grandmother, she worked at the voting polls, made sure that everybody voted, whether they liked the person or not. You still got to vote, just watching her in the church and organizing, and just, taking care of home and taking care of people in the community, using the kitchen in the church to take care of those who didn't have a house or had a place to eat, and so I was raised by it. And the high school I attended here was by the one, and I think only, all Black order of nuns called the Sisters of the Holy Family. And they were the ones that, realized that I had this, thing of everything that's in my head, from being a musician to being an athlete to being an order. They just kind of helped me to compartmentalize and be able to function. Some people would call that ADHD, or, there's some hyper kid.
You're multi-talented. You're multi-talented, and that's what's important. And what I just in this few moments getting from you is that you were kind of born and raised in social justice. It was kind of that was your sphere, that was your orbit, that was your world with your family.
Even going to that school, St. Mary's Academy, she started that school in 1867, when it was illegal for us to even read. She started this school for all Black girls. Okay, and so with that being said, that kind of sets the place of who I am and how I was put out into this world. And every day from 7th grade, from 1st grade to 12th grade, but when I got to St. Mary's Academy, from 7th grade to 12th grade, there's no excellence without hard labor. So that has been my motto throughout life. And even when I took my corporate position working in the control unit in New York in the finance department, I became the shop steward. And I started fighting for workers' rights and making sure that, the collective bargaining agreement did what it was supposed to do. And I defended it with my life, literally. And
so a union worker also, in your history.
Yeah, 1199 SEIU. Yes.
Wow,
yes,
making difference in the lives of people. Now, a lot of people wouldn't take on those kinds of positions because they would be fearful of losing their jobs. So it sounds like you're pretty fearless. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, be fearless. And that exactly is it. I had no fear. I'm single, no children, wasn't married. I just felt like I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And if they did what they did to fight for the rights that we had, who was I to would be afraid? I mean, they absolutely faced certain death,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I'm like, who am I to be afraid to stand up for to protect what they already put there for us? So, you know, there's the saying, take a stand to keep a seat, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and to leave it better than what you found it. And that's, you know, to this day, I literally retired from the union in, I want to say 2007, but I continue to, wherever I am and whatever I do, I continue to do the work.
Wow. Well, and speaking of the work, there is a project that you are working on that is indicative of a lot of things that you said. One of the things I heard from you is like that we need to maintain the truth. We need to tell the truth. I heard that echoing out of what you were saying. And so tell us a little bit about this project that you're working on called the New Orleans 4 Legacy Project. Tell us a little bit about that.
So my mom gave me a task when I moved back home to New Orleans, and she said, I'm going to need you to go and sit down with Leona and figure out what you can do to help her. And I'm like, Mom, she has a little house museum, you know, I don't know what you, and it wasn't hitting me.
Now, we're not familiar,
So I'm
Leona,
about to
who?
take Leona Tate.
Okay.
So she said, I'm telling you, go over there and sit with your T Leona. And, you know, she's T Leona, we call her endearingly, but she's my mom's best friend. And so I go over finally, because here I am at 52 years old. My mom talking to me like I'm 12. Don't call me until you talk to her. And I'm like, okay. So I go over and it hits me. She wants to literally, she drives me to McDonough 19 Elementary School, boarded up, and says, I want to buy this school building. I'm like, this is what my mom thinks I can help you with? I don't have that kind of money. So I started thinking about it and I said, why does she want to buy the school? Because she wants the history to live in a bigger space. And she wants to revive it because since Katrina, McDonough 19 Elementary School, which is a historic landmark, it was the school she integrated when she was 6 years old with Tessie Prevost and Gail Etienne. On the same day that Ruby Bridges integrated William Frantz Elementary School. So this story was completely fragmented. No one had actually decided to finally put this whole thing together. And so I winded up stumbling upon the project that Historic New Orleans Collection Museum was doing, was oral history project. And I said, so where are these pieces going to live? And they were just like, well, here at the museum, people have access to it. I'm like, would you guys work with me in partnership to create a docuseries?
Wow. Wow. So that
And
gets to
so,
your role as, you know, a multimedia activist. I think you have been dubbed. And
yes, I've been dubbed by my friend, my wonderful old good friend, Ayana Red Summer. Her artist poet name is Red Summer Mohammed. She is the founding national curator for the founding curator for the National Hip Hop Museum.
wow.
And you can look Red Summer up. She's really awesome people. She says, Dee, you're a multimedia activist from music. Your music speaks to social justice. You yourself, you're a walking piece of social justice when you walk in the room. Because I'm Black, I'm a queer identified, and I'm a woman, and you know, marginalized people is
that's what you work on. That's the story that you
yeah,
help
voiceless
tell.
and marginalized people. And I felt
Yeah.
that Tate, Tessie Prevost, and Gail Etienne, they were voiceless in the movement of the civil rights movement, and they did something very integral and pivotal. And for some reason, it was just about Ruby Bridges, and I felt that was unfair, not just to them, but to all of us, because our history is sacred, and we deserve to have the truth and the whole truth. You know, that's what we swear to, right? The
Exactly.
truth and the whole truth. And so even this painting, as I did my research, I found a woman by the name of Linda Jean Gunn, and she is the girl that is forever immortalized in that painting, but no one knows her name. And so even within this project, I definitely make sure people know who Linda Jean Gunn was.
Now,
And
this particular piece that I'm showing right now, this is so iconic, and this is the Norman Rockwell piece that was done,
right.
and it is of Ruby Bridges.
No, it is a, and here's the thing that I think people
Clarify
just
for us.
ran with it.
Mhm.
This painting is a painting of a young girl by the name of Linda Jean Gunn. This, even though it's just one girl, this piece was about a symbolism. It was about the fact that the problem we all live with is that a child has to be escorted to school. It was
Yeah.
not specifically about Ruby Bridges, because I also found there was because he always painted from a photograph. And so he had 3 girls lined up in the same position in photographs that he was going to paint at first. And then he finally just came down to symbolism. But over the years, because it was just one girl in the photo, in the painting, they just automatically ran with it. It's Ruby Bridges. And I'm like, and then she ran with it. And I'm just like, no. And then looking at all the things that Norman Rockwell has painted, he never painted about any particular person. That was not what he did.
Yeah.
And so
the theme that he was going, but it's really interesting. I'm glad we're having this conversation about correcting and clarifying and everything, because one of the things that I've read is that, oh, that's Ruby Bridges. And let's take the image and the misconception a little bit further in terms of me. And that might be something of just my own personal weakness. But over the years, as I saw that particular film, I always thought of not New Orleans, but Little Rock, Arkansas, because of Brown versus the Board of Education and everything. So
that was Topeka, Kansas.
yeah, exactly. Well, that goes to show, I'm like, oh, that's Little Rock. And then it's actually was Topeka, Kansas. And so you got your work cut out for you to clarify what really happened. And what's so significant about it right now is there's so much revisionist history that's going on. So that really shows how vital your work is. So, you obviously have passion there. You obviously have passion. So what can we do? What are the next steps? How can we, basically help you on this mission for us to be educated? We need to be, brought to the light. And that's one of the things I love about the San Francisco Black Film Festivals and the Oakland International Film Festival and all of the film festivals, where you get an opportunity to find out from grassroots what really happening, what is happening, that can give us an indication of where we can go moving forward. So tell us a little bit about, I have, as a matter of fact, as you're talking about the project, let's clarify the name of the project that you're working on once again.
The name of the project is the New Orleans 4 Legacy Project. And it's a 3-part docuseries included in this whole project. But I've been simultaneously also advocating to set the record straight. So while I'm working on the film, I'm also advocating to make sure that even the city of New Orleans and the state of Louisiana gets this right. And if we can't get it right with the city and the state, we're never going to get this right. So for the 60th anniversary of school desegregation here in New Orleans, the City Council of New Orleans finally decided to declare November 14th as New Orleans 4 Day. We had a ceremony at Gallia Hall. And from there, I took that and started reaching out to Comcast's Voices of the Civil Rights Movement to get all 4 ladies inducted, because they only at that point had Ruby Bridges in Voices of the Civil Rights Movement. And so now Leona Tate, Tessie Prevost, and Gail Etienne are now included in the Voices of the Civil Rights Movement, as well as other members of the New Orleans resistance movement. My goal is to now make sure that their names are known and that their names are household names. You can go ahead and just play the trailer if you want to play.
Yeah, as you know, as you're talking and everything, I'm going to keep the, just have the
Yeah.
visuals and everything going.
Yeah. So
see
the
some of the
undertaking.
people.
I mean, you can play the sound. Just I
Okay,
mean, we're
okay.
just here on the screen right now.
Okay.
Just
noises and having all kind of things in their hands.
Let's just
And I
start
just
from the
felt like-
beginning.
Start it
from
over,
the
yeah.
very beginning.
When them marshals arrived to pick us up, she said, when you get in that car, you sit to the back of that seat and don't put your face to the window. When we pulled up, there was this crowd.
mobs of people making all this noises and having all kind of things in their hands. And I just felt like if they could get to me, they'd want to kill me. And I didn't know why.
Leona Tate, Ruby Bridges, Tessie Prevost, and Gail Etienne, the New Orleans Four set off the alarm and raised the roof high when they marched up those stairs to integrate white-only public schools in New Orleans.
They took giant steps to lead a mission that many grown adults would shudder at doing.
It was a time when we were like on pins and needles, how dangerous it was. And they were willing to make the sacrifice for all of us. And this is what has happened throughout our lives. People have made sacrifices for us to advance.
This beloved city of New Orleans is the cradle of the civil rights movement, and it has always been the stronghold for the resistance in our fight for freedom.
The revolt of 1811, the largest slave revolt that took place in the United States.
Plessy versus Ferguson became a focal point in the fight against segregation law.
What took place at F.W. Woolworth and McCrory's Five and Dime was the very first organized lunch counter sit-in demonstration in New Orleans.
If you could take away 10% of their business, that was basically their profit.
Whatever they gonna do, let them do it. But we're gonna walk out of here as dignified men and women of the Black Panther Party.
The Freedom Riders traveled to New Orleans by plane after a group of segregationists violently attacked their buses.
The Freedom Ride was supposed to take place on Washington, D.C. and end up in New Orleans. Well, it didn't happen that way.
I'm humbled to be standing here to commemorate desegregation and the New Orleans resistance movement.
The battle never stops. People who are in control want to stay in control wherever they are.
I want things to be better for my kids and for the next generation to come. I don't want them to have to go through what we went through.
I want people to say their name. I want them to know them.
They were the light and will always remind us to walk in the light. They showed the world and young people that they have the power, they have a say, and they have the wherewithal to stand their ground for freedom, equality, and justice.
Shine bright. Oh, wow, Dee, this is really phenomenal. And I'm so glad that you allowed us to see this trailer. And I know you're not sharing it with everyone on all the platforms. So for you to be on Live Talk with SFBFF and sharing that with us, it just strikes to the heart of the mission of the San Francisco Black Film Festival as created by Ave Montague, and then her son, Cree Ray, took over until his death in 2020 suddenly. And now it's being run by her granddaughter, Cree. So Cree Ray, rather. I said Cree because as a matter of fact, I guess that was a mental jump in my head, because there is a decree that is happening, and there is a cry out that is happening that needs to happen in terms of our history for the here and now. But it is Cree Ray that is actually running the San Francisco Black Film Festival, and I'm honored to be talking to you about this wonderful project. So where are you now? It's a 3-part docuseries and everything, but where are you now in the creation of it all?
So part 1 and 2 are complete because it's about the past. Okay. But part 3 is about how we're going to take a stand to keep the seat. And so again, simultaneously advocating and mobilizing. So we're in a very important presidential year. One of the things that I think is important is that we need to know our history in order to be inspired to vote. And so I'm working simultaneously with other groups like Color of Change, for instance. I have the petition to make New Orleans 4-Day a national holiday on Color of Change right now. I also have the Color Network NOLA, in which we're advancing brown and Black people, indigenous people of color from this area, behind the camera in above the line positions. So in this segment, I'm seeking young people who are just getting out of college. And so with that being said, they get to get behind this camera, because in this industry, it's about, you know, hands-on. And so the veterans that I hire, you know, I ask them to also let them shadow them so that they can get that hands-on training, paid training. And then there's the other part where I'm looking to big organizations to get behind the petition, to power it, and also working with the state representatives and senators to basically create the opportunity for me to bring this to the Senate floor, and to also bring my elders to the Senate floor. And the last living parent of the girls, her name is Mrs. Dorothy Prevost, Tessie's mother. She's going to speak on the Senate floor, and that's what we're working on right now. And so I want to be able to capture all of this. And then once we receive all of the signatures, 1.4 million for 14, 1.4 million, we want to go ahead and do a freedom train ride with the descendant of Homer Plessy, Mr. Keith Plessy, as the ambassador, to bring the elders for one more political act, to bring those signatures to make it a national holiday. And working with the
I brought up
senator
on the screen here, basically on the website, that people can go to neworleans4legacy.com, and there is a link where they can sign the petition and everything.
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
yeah. So that
and then it goes right to, it takes you right there to the Color of Change platform.
okay.
And
that's
all those
marvelous.
things-
That's
Yeah, and
marvelous.
they can-
Collaboration, Color of Change, because I think they're based in if I'm thinking correctly, they're based here in the Bay Area. So, you know, there's another little touch point here, San Francisco Black Film Festival, Color of Change, and Diedra Meredith. We're all working together and everything.
Yes.
So, you know, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I just want to find out, you know, if there's something else that we should be talking about when it comes to this project that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I really want people to understand is it is important that we focus on being a part of the change we want to see, right? And so I'll give you a story of a woman that I recently encountered where she was, you know, kind of focusing on the single story narrative, right? And so I said to her, I said, you, the author Chimbiande Ngozi, she said the single story narrative can rob people of their dignity. And it certainly robs Leona Tate, Tessie Prevost, and Gail Etienne. You know, when you go with the single story narrative, and when I'm telling you, there were 4 girls on November 14th, you have a moral obligation to refer to them as they were referred to then and should have never been changed. They were referred to as the New Orleans 4, synonymous to the Little Rock 9.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you remove New Orleans from that and just make it about one child, you remove New Orleans from the global conversation. And there was some integral and pivotal things that took place here. You see that man there in that picture, that's Thurgood Marshall. Yeah. He literally set up camp here in New Orleans and stayed here next to this man, A.P. Turo, who was the lead attorney here in New Orleans when they set forth the Bush versus the Orleans Parish School Board, That was filed first before Brown versus the Board of Education. But Jim Crow was so strong down here that they had to move it to Topeka, Kansas, because it was easier. And then it took 6 more years after Brown versus the Board of Education before they actually designed school desegregation with Judge Kelly Wright.
Wow.
And it's just such a rich history here. And a lot of people don't know that the Southern Christian Leadership Conference started right here in New Orleans at New Zion Baptist Church on 3rd Street. This is where Dr. King became the president. You know, I just gotta say that the March on City Hall was and the first bus boycott, organized bus boycott, happened here in Louisiana, right in Baton Rouge, with Miss Mary White first. So I'm
there's
I'm
a lot of
overwhelmed.
richness and depth to this. It's so tremendous, and I'm just so thrilled that you have spent some time to you know, unpack so much. You know, I mean, SCLC starting there, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and you know, all of the great work that's done, and it's just so great just to see this image. This image is actually from the website and everything, guys. So please take a look at this website, if you will, the New Orleans for Legacy project and everything. So, and Google it, find out more, because there's really a lot that can be done and said to promote
Yeah, and so I'm taking tax deductible donations. I have a fiscal agent, Operation Restoration.
Here we are. There's the button, folks. There
Yeah.
it is, right there.
So-
Donate.
So in order for me to produce part 3, I'm gonna need some extra funds. So I'm also in the middle of grant writing and, you know, man, hitting up if you know people at the Solidarity Fund and know people at any of these other funding, send them my way, and I'll send the information to me. And you can reach us right there on the website and send us messages. So any support to get this over the finish line, and also just sign that petition. As many, you know, we need as many signatures from around the country in different zip codes. So it's just your name, your email address, and and that just shows that America wants to see this, because these 4 little girls, they didn't know what they were doing, but their little feet were giant steps, and
Yes,
it was
exactly
quite powerful. They set off
heroin.
that was 1960, and then there was the Children's Crusade of 1963. So
Wow.
other children were inspired by them to say, we want to do something too. So
Exactly. So this is a very important work. And once again, thank you so very much for sharing with San Francisco Black Film Festival, our SFBFF live talk. It's just, you know, so much history, just looking at the images, Thurgood Marshall, looking at him and just knowing all of the noble work that he's did. You know, I'm sitting here almost wanting to go, you know, wanting to cry here, little tears.
Yeah.
Because
there's many days that whoa, I mean, what they went through for us to have it, you know. So who are we to sit back and act like this does not matter? It's not that long ago. It's not that long ago.
And we
years
share
ago.
the revisionists. I don't know if we talked about that enough. And of course,
Oh yeah, historical revisionism. You know, this whole movement to kind of water down so it can be palatable to white people's children. They're trying to protect their children from our history. Well, we didn't create what your ancestors did to ours, but you don't get to muffle ours, nor do you get to revise it so it's more palatable, and you remove the bestiality of it, of what was done to other human beings just because their skin color was darker than yours. We also cannot stand by and allow historical revisionism to happen within our own community, because I've even had some pushback, was like, oh, well, you know, that seems to be too ugly. You know, maybe you cannot show that part. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
It happened.
No, it happened. I mean, as a matter of fact, Leona Tate, Tessie Prevost, and Gail Etienne, they integrated a second elementary school when they became 3rd graders, because McDonough 19 became predominantly all Black. And the point was integration. And so when they went to TJ Sims Elementary School, the white flight that took place, that's the school they went to. And they were damned if they were going to bring these Black kids to integrate TJ Sims.
Oh.
And here come these 3 little girls again, leading with about 6 or 7 more students to integrate TJ Sims. And that school, when you watch that interview with them on the Today Show and that the interview with them on CBS Mornings, it's a hell no child should have ever experienced.
Mhm.
And for them to be pushed into the shadows of history, I can only think that that was some type of, hey, the white people in charge of the narrative. Well, let's not do those. Let's just do the one and do this, that one little hero and just make it like, we all got along. And that's nothing against Ruby Bridges at all. It's just, we got to tell the whole
more to
truth.
the story. There
And
was more to the story. And
There was
that
more.
story needs to be told. So
And-
I really commend you on the work that you're doing, and hopefully you'll inspire others to do the same thing, because it was more than Dr. Martin Luther King. There was an army of people, and it's the people that were, the grassroots, boots on the ground that
Yes, ma'am.
made a difference for a lot of us whose names we won't probably ever know, but we have an opportunity to know these young girls and everything, and their whole story and their family legacy. It's something that we all should embrace and everything. And it's something that is healing, and it's helpful to the descendants of racists and, slave owners and everything. It's healthy for them as well to know the truth, for the
that we should never go back here. Yeah.
but there won't
And
be
they
a
shouldn't.
that. Yeah. So
when I took history of consciousness with Dr. Angela Davis,
Mhm.
The history of consciousness course, it absolutely helped these, children who were of white ancestors who participated in this type of behavior. And, one of the students said, hey, I know why my family's wealthy. And he started digging back, and he's like, it all comes back to the fact that they got free labor. And it becomes me as the heir. He says, I'm getting rid of it. I'm gonna make my own money. I'm sharing the wealth. He says, I'm gonna just end this legacy of them and just give them whatever the restitution or reparations. He says when he becomes the heir of it, that's what he plans to do. And I'm like, well, that's a brave thing to say, but it just, once they come to that reckoning,
Yeah.
it's once the light is on, yeah.
People have different responses and everything. But, we can't respond appropriately if we don't know what the truth is. So I commend you once again for your work, Diedra. And as we are entering our conversation at this particular point in time, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Sign the petition, share it with everybody. And also, again, I'm just activating and mobilizing. And if you know anybody who wants to be a part of helping me to mobilize this movement so that I can capture it, because it is important for this generation and generations to come to know exactly the blueprint of what they did. And if they did what they did back then and the laws were not on their side, imagine what we can do to keep that seat and actually finish the race. So be a part of the movement wherever you are. And if you're have friends here in Louisiana and New Orleans and they don't know about this project, please tell them about us and just support wherever you can from wherever you are. And I hope that I get the opportunity to come to the film festival there and be a part of it and show the extended teaser.
We'd love to have you as part of the San Francisco Black Film Festival. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary all year along, and your work here is just an example of that by your being on the SFBFF Live Talk. So we really appreciate that, and we look forward to next year, 2024.
Right.
Have you here live to talk about it. We can do some things, even as you're building, completing the docuseries. There's a lot of conversation that can be had, and it should be had. So thank you for joining us, and I so appreciate you being here for the SFBFF Live Talk. Meredith.
Thank you so much for having me, Jackie. I gotta tell you, this is needed for me, just to have people know that I'm out here, because I'm in the trenches down here doing it in the swamp. That's like, oh, it's a lot of work, and it's it's pretty tough down here because
Yeah.
a lot of people are kind of like, why you gonna mess with that?
Exactly. It's like, let's just play our beautiful jazz music from New Orleans and skim over everything else. But you're not
Yeah,
letting
but
that
I'm here to
happen.
kind of shake it up and say, wake it up. And we got a powerful opportunity here. It's the presidential election. And I feel that when they see, and I am going to start doing some private screenings of it. So maybe I can do a private screening at the festival and just, really help this generation understand that we can get out there and we can protest all we want. But if we're not getting the lawyers into the room with the protesters, if we're not getting the protesters into the room with the elders, if we're not connecting our history to the movement, there's no blueprint, there's no map, there's no understanding of how.
Exactly.
So it's important that your history plays that role in your life. It's sacred. It really is
Thank
sacred.
you. Thank you. And thank you for clarifying the misinformation that I had and everything, and just the great work that you've done. So this is going to be it, folks, for Live Talk with SFBFF. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for helping and supporting the San Francisco Black Film Festival, because we provide a platform for such great work as Diedra Meredith. Thank you, and everyone, have a blessed day, and make sure you keep everybody on track with the truth. Thank you.